Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, The Future of Mobile BPM. I'm Ellie Stutz, Knowledge Manager for PNM Soft, and we're very excited to be with you today on this very interesting and I would say hot topic in the world of business and BPM, mobile BPM. Today in our program, we have a lot coming up for you. We have our featured speaker will be coming on soon, James Luxford. He's PNM Soft's Global Head of Product, and he's very involved with our new progress in the field of mobile BPM. And of course myself, Knowledge Manager for PNM Soft. On the right of the screen you can see already our mobile BPM portal, which we'll be demoing later on in this webinar. Just to give you an idea of what we'll be talking about today. First I'll be talking a little bit about what we know of the facts and figures on mobile usage in the business world and in the world in general. We'll be talking about how mobile BPM evolved from BPM and even how BPM evolved to start off with, just to give you an idea of how we got to where we are today and where we can go from here. We'll be dealing with comparing the benefits of mobile BPM versus desk-bound BPM and talking about what benefits mobile BPM stands to bring. James will be dealing with will be laying out the key features of mobile BPM as they are today and what can be coming in the future, what key features we expect to see. And then of course the highlight of our webinar is the Sequence Mobile portal demonstration, which James will be giving. And finally, we have a short debate, or maybe more of a Q&A of mobile BPM portals versus a mobile BPM app. So that's the format. We welcome your questions. You're welcome to write them in the GoToWebinar interface, and we'll try to field them. And let's get started right away. So we're going to get into some facts and figures here to make it a little more interesting. I'd like to turn to James. James, are you with us? Can you hear me?
I'm here.
Okay, so James, welcome to the program. James Luxford is Global Head of Product for PNM Soft. I'd like you to take a guess, James, on the figures here. What percent of the UK adult population do you think own a mobile smartphone?
Ooh, you put me on the spot there. I reckon adult population 25%.
25%, okay. And if I asked you what percent of U.S. workers use mobile or wireless computing, what would you say?
I reckon, currently I reckon 10%.
10%?
I suspect that's going to go up significantly over the next few years.
Okay, and finally, last question. How many people worldwide use mobile phones for banking and e-commerce, approximately?
Banking and e-commerce worldwide. Ooh,
worldwide, yes.
A number.
A number, yes.
I would say 10 million.
Just 10 million?
Yep.
You're sure you don't want to modify that guess a little bit? I'll give you a hint. Go higher a little bit. Go higher.
Okay. I mean, I was going to say 100 million originally, but yeah. Okay. I'll multiply by 10 and go for 100 million.
Okay, 100 million it is. Okay. Well, let's take a look at some of the figures I've assembled on in each of these questions. Mobile statistics and predictions. So to start off with, we have. I'm not going to read all of these. Just some of the highlights. Gartner estimates that the worldwide Q4 2011 sales of smartphones is 149 million. Nielsen reports that 46% of U.S. mobile phone owners have a smartphone as of Q4 2011. Now let's get to some of the answers to the questions I posed to you. Kantar World Panel claims that 48.9% of the British population have a smartphone. Now that's a pretty amazing claim. You had said something like 25%, I think, and they're claiming almost half. That's really amazing. We have a sales predictions. The Financial Times cites J.P. Morgan predicting that 657 million smartphones will leave stores in 2012. Now let's get to some of the mobile commerce that I was asking you about. The Yankee Group in June 2011 said that global mobile transactions predicted to be 241 US billion dollars in 2011, growing to more than $1 trillion by 2015. And as to the question that I asked you, let's see, Portio Research says there were 81.3 million people using their mobile device to make payments. That's only in 2009. They predict by 2014 the number will rise to 490 million. And finally, as far as mobile financial services, M-Banking, Yankee Group predicts there will be 500 million M-Banking users globally by 2015. And global industry analysts predict global customer base of M-Banking will reach 1.1 billion by the year 2015. So you were closer on some, and I think that I think what we're seeing is the answers were higher all across the board. Lastly, we see this is by iPass Global Mobile Workforce saying that 67% of all workers use mobile and wireless computing. So definitely the numbers are probably higher than many people who are listening to this webinar would have expected on all counts. And what really the result of all this research is that the mobile technology is already very prevalent, certainly among people in general, but also as far as employees in the global and the mobile workforce. And many studies are showing that more and more people are working outside of their offices. They're using their mobiles or their tablets to do their work in transit, at home, basically anywhere. And less we're seeing, you know, the classic 9-hour-a-day desk job where people are just sitting desk-bound. And certainly the last 20 years, desk-bound with their computers. Now we're seeing so much more of the work is being done on the go, and that's really why we're here. That's why we're talking today about mobile BPM, because BPM encompasses all sorts of processes in many industries, and if the people who are using these processes, if the end users are working via their mobile devices, then BPM needs to adapt to that in order to enable them to complete their work in the new way that people have begun to work. So let's talk for a moment. I'll come to this slide in a second, but actually we'll go to the next slide. I mentioned the users, and I would propose that there are 4 types of mobile BPM users that we can talk about. First of all, we talk about employees, who I just mentioned, and these are often the people who are the runtime operators of BPM processes. These are the customer service agents, for example, who are operating a BPM process for their company. And the second type would be the customers of the company, the thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of potential end users who, for example, are requesting to apply for a government license on a government portal. Now they'd like to be able to do that from their mobile phone. Or it could be, for a financial services company, it could be a user who is applying for a credit request over the mobile phone. The list is endless, but that of course, I think most of the stats that we saw earlier would show that mobile use is so prevalent that companies must enable their customers to be able to access their services using mobile interfaces. The third type I would say is the managers, who not only need to track and monitor the process, but they also need to have access to mobile dashboards, and we'll see more of that in James's demos as we go through the webinar. Finally, the fourth group I would say are the process developers. Now, this is a group where we haven't gone there yet as far as mobile BPM. Most of the focus today is on the end users or the employees, the customers, and managers. As far as actually designing processes via mobile phone, perhaps by tablet is more relevant, but by mobile phone, we're not quite there yet, but that could be something that we'll see in the future as well. So that's who we're talking about. The stats show that we need to focus on this, that we need to develop a mobile BPM capabilities, And what you're going to see today is a taste of those capabilities which we've already developed, and a look into what we'll be developing in the future. So just go back for a second to the previous slide. Just to understand how we got to here as far as the evolution of BPM and mobile BPM. I'm not going to go through all the stages, but this is analysis by Sandy Kemsley. She basically wrote a page on BPM history, and we start off in the 1980s with the workflow, and we're talking obviously in the computing age. This is a computerized workflow, person to person. Later on in the 80s, we have the emergence of systems which are called EAI, or Enterprise Application Integration Systems. And these are basically processes which are from system to system, but are not human-centric. In the 90s, we see a combination of the two into systems which integrate both processes that are human and machine or system processes. Finally, around 2000 and onwards, we start to see the emergence. In 2003, we have Gartner coining the term BPM, which is basically a software solution which either focused on the human side or on the system side. Coming into the last few years, we see the emergence of the BPM suite, which incorporates more functionality, incorporates monitoring and reporting functionality, integration with other systems, and so on. And then in the last couple of years, we are starting to see BPM suites which are offering mobile features, such as our own one-click action feature, which enables users to complete tasks which they get as an email by one click from their mobile phone. And now, in the last, I would say, in the last year or two, really, we're starting to see the evolution of actual mobile BPM suites, which would be a full BPM suite, but accessed via a mobile device. So that's really, in a nutshell, covering about 30 years of history of BPM and how we got to where we are today. And we're going to see more of where we are today coming up soon. So let's go to a minute. So just very quickly, the benefits of mobile BPM versus desk-bound BPM. So of course, desk-bound BPM is limited. The worker only has access to the process when he's at his workstation, and that obviously limits workers who are not always at their workstations, who are doing work elsewhere. Whereas mobile BPM, the access is really anytime, anywhere. Mobile BPM also boasts functionality which we haven't seen in desk-bound BPM of touch and click actions which can be completed faster. We mentioned earlier the one-click action feature of sequence. We have mobile reporting and dashboards, which are also quicker to access, quicker to see the results on the mobile phone. We have the ability to do banking and commerce operations from mobile devices. Better customer service, because as we said, the end users who are the customers are accessing services via their mobile devices, and we don't have that obviously if they're on just desk-bound BPM. And finally, greater satisfaction for employees who are able to work how they want to work. This is the ease of use that mobile BPM gives the employee. So those are some of the benefits. Obviously not a comprehensive list, but just to give you a flavor. And now we're going to just see if we have any questions so far before we move straight into James Luxford's hands-on demo here. Any questions from the audience? Take a look. Shlomo Steinmetz, our support leader, is taking this webinar.
I haven't received any questions so far.
Okay, well, you're welcome to write them in. Let's move on. And I'd like to then give the floor to James Luxford, Global Head of Product for P&M Soft. Go ahead, James.
Okay, thanks, Ali. So just while we're switching over, just to remind everyone, please feel free to ask any questions via the questions panel within GoToMeeting if you have any questions, and we'll try and get to those as soon as we can. Okay. So there's going to be two parts to what I'm going to go through now. First of all, we have some slides about what are the key features of a mobile BPM suite. As Ellie mentioned, both present and future. And as we go through these, we're also talking about sequences capabilities, but I shall wrap up with explaining what our offering, what PNMsoft's offering is in terms of mobile BPM at the end of these. And then after that, we'll actually go and have a look at sequence, and we'll show you exactly what we've been talking about. So without further ado, okay. So mobile BPM features. These are sort of the key features. There's many different features that are part of mobile BPM, but I've picked out just 10 of the really pertinent features here. I won't talk through these here. Let's actually get into each one and talk about them. The first one is secure. This is probably the most important. We're living in a world that is far more connected than it's ever been. Information passing around far more than it ever has. And that's valuable information, and we need to protect that information. Obviously, with mobile BPM application, even all mobile applications need to be secure. Mobile BPM solutions need to be particularly secure to protect that enterprise information. And therefore, the use of industry standard security protocols and techniques for ensuring that we know who is logged on, we're authenticating that person effectively and efficiently so that the information doesn't get into the wrong hands. But then we need to be platform independent here. And this is quite an unusual one. Sequence has been web-enabled since 2000. We were one of the first BPM platforms to be web-enabled. And of course, one of the advantages of being web-enabled is you work on virtually any browser. That concept has now really extended to the mobile world, where there's a proliferation of different mobile platforms out there. And of course, any mobile BPM offering needs to be able to work on any of those devices. And what's key here is we're seeing organizations aren't providing, in a lot of cases, these smartphones to their employees. The employees are tending to use their own or using a mixture of their own and corporate smartphones. So it's hard for a customer to say, yes, I'm going to use Windows 8 mobiles for all of my employees. So we need to be platform independent. And that's also important for any ISP such as PNMsoft to be able to focus on just creating one code base that works across all of those platforms. So if you were to have a BlackBerry and use the app, it would work exactly the same as if you then moved your own personal iPhone and use that. We expect an extremely high standard of user experience these days. The mobile user is a very pernickety user, and we expect a very polished but very simple to use user interface. There are some very nice apps out there, some very nice operating systems on the phone these days, and therefore any BPM, mobile BPM solution needs to meet those high standards. But then mobile BPM, it's both an alternative but also an extension to the PC or the desk-bound BPM. So really a mobile has to offer the user the same functionality more or less as they would get when they are desk-bound. I'll talk a little bit more about that later when we actually get into the demo, because it's not necessarily always appropriate for it to be exactly the same, but more about that later. But as well as offering an alternative, mobiles, with certain functionality that they have, onboard features such as camera, geolocation, ability to be able to SMS, do voice calls, etc. It's opening up a wealth of opportunities within automated processes to be able to do more than has historically been done at the desktop or with the laptop. So if it's field engineers to be able to take photos as part of the process, for processes to understand where the user is and allocating tasks to the person that's perhaps nearest a certain point of interest and so on. The mobile is offering us extended capabilities over historical desk-bound BPM. And BPM, it's often about decision making. It's about people being provided with the information that they need when they need it. So when someone receives a task, they need to have all the information to hand about what has happened, what's the event that has meant they have received that task. So they can then make an informed decision when they're actually actioning the task. And those notifications, they can be via email or they can be via message within a mobile application. Of course, what's really key about mobile BPM is that users should be able to work in a way that is relevant, not just for them generally, but for them at that particular point. So the user may want to log onto the mobile app and see what messages they've got, or they may just be browsing their email and want to see the notifications that way. Or they may be at their desk in the office looking on their laptop. But what's really key is that the information contains all, the notification contains all the information that is required, so that when the recipient actions the task, they action it quickly and effectively.
James? Just a question. Do you think it's really possible to provide all the information that a desk-bound BPM interface would provide in the smaller mobile BPM interface?
Yeah, that's a very important point, and that goes back to what I mentioned in my previous slide about providing an alternative to the PC. What we need to do is make a judgment call. Obviously, on a PC, you have a much greater real estate for providing information. You can the interface on the majority of mobile devices is good enough to be able to provide lots of information, but it's never as ideal as seeing it on the larger PC screen. So the process designer does need to make a judgment call about just how much information. For instance, background information, they may choose to leave that out, or may choose to put that into a second page, so that the user sees the personal information on what is a relatively small real estate of the mobile screen.
Of course, I was just going to mention that we do have the trends of people who are using iPads or other tablets, and then we have more real estate on the screen, and something which maybe we could follow as far as are more and more users tending towards tablets, or are they, or is that percentage holding steady, or is it growing? Obviously, we have a very large percentage using the smaller devices, so it's something we've obviously got to give maybe the center of attention to, but it would be interesting to see the trend there.
Yes, I mean, the tablet is an interesting one, because, as you say, it's almost giving you the same real estate in terms of screen space as you have on a laptop. And take Sequence, for instance. You can access Sequence either through the SharePoint BPM portal on an iPad, or you can access it through the Sequence mobile portal. Both very similar functionality, very similar user experience. So that would be interesting to see where that particular area of the mobile market goes. And just to make it clear, we do include tablets when we're talking about mobile devices. And what we're seeing in terms of certainly P&M soft customers, we're seeing a lot of managers, a lot of executives that want to understand how their businesses are performing. and how their processes, their automated processes are performing. So the use of sequence dashboards on iPads is a very fast-growing area for P&M software. I was hoping to show an iPad as part of the web demo today, but they really don't show up very well on webcams, so you'll just have to use your imagination on that one, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Okay, Ellie?
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so mobile BPM, it's not just about mobile apps. It's not just about doing everything within a particular app on your mobile. We live in an age of email. Don't think email is going anywhere. And because of that, we have provided the ability to, of course, receive your notifications as email, but also within that email to then be able to action the task. And here on the screen, you can see an example. This is something we used at the Gartner IT Expo back in 2011 that we sent out to attendees that came to the P&M Soft booth, asking them how they'd like us to follow up. And they would receive an email, and within that email they can just click on one of the buttons that will then action that task. This is our one click. You can action your task just with one click, or actually one press of the finger on a mobile device. This is a very nice feature that is, it's a real midway between email and mobile apps. What we're really excited by with this feature is its ability, or the ability for the process designer to be able to define these particular buttons. It's not a coding exercise. You don't have to write lines of code for each one. The process designer uses a configuration wizard to define what the buttons are and what the appropriate actions will be depending on which button is pressed. And I like this example we're showing because historically people always use these sort of features for approve or decline, but it can go much further than that. As you can see here, it allows the recipient of the task to be able to choose quite a wide range of options. So going back to Ellie's point there about can you show the same amount of information on a mobile as you can on a laptop? And that idea extends to the forms. Now, you've been able to use sequence forms on a mobile for a long time. What you can now do is, within a task, within sequence, you can define multiple views on that task. So you can create a view that is specific for a laptop or a desktop, and then you can create an additional view that is specific for the mobile. Now, two benefits there. First of all, you could have slightly different look and feels, and we'll see that when we look at the demo later. It also means, building on Ellie's point, there may be either some pieces of information or even some information that you're collecting, some of the fields on the form, that for the mobile user you want to omit those. You want to make it as quick and easy as possible for the mobile user to action the task. But perhaps if they're doing it desk-bound, they would add more information. Totally up to the process designer. The use of a data model behind the task allows you to be able to pick and choose which fields appear in which particular view of the form.
James, I suppose that would mean that as we move more into the mobile age and away from desk-bound BPM, then we may be dealing with less information in order to move the process forward. That may just be the way the world is going, just quicker, faster, less overhead.
And yes, and I think that's the way that the world is going. We work at a much faster pace than we used to. People are bombarded with more information, but we're having to make decisions quicker. And we don't seem to have the luxury these days to pontificate over these decisions as much. So yes, so it will be very much, I believe, this is what's happened. Do you want to do A, B, and C, rather than being able to give a long diatribe about what you want to happen and so on. So yes, so I do think with mobile devices, it will change our behaviour, simply because you can't sit on a mobile device and fill in lots and lots of text boxes with lots and lots of information. It's just not a realistic user experience. Okay.
Okay.
So, dashboards on mobiles. I mentioned earlier about iPads. So, sequence dashboards can be viewed on PCs. They can be viewed on iPads. They can also be viewed on your mobile device. And what's key here is it's about information. Information is king, especially for managers and executives. They need to know, they may not be interacting directly with the processes, but they need to know how their operation is performing. They need to have supporting information so they can make decisions quicker and easier than they previously have been able to do. And by presenting key KPIs and other management information, examples that you'll see when I get onto the demo in a moment, this allows wherever they are, those knowledge workers, those decision makers, key stakeholders, to be able to make decisions wherever they are without having to wait till they get back into the office or until they log on next. And we've been talking very much up to now about the end user experience, how the person with the mobile can benefit from mobile BPM. But what is again very key for the success of mobile BPM is for the customer, for the PNM's customer, to be able to provide that user experience to their end users. And so it's key that we have a rich design environment that allows the process designer to be able to configure that mobile experience, to be able to tailor it for specific requirements. And by these process designers, we have designed sequence so business users can build mobile portals. IT developers can create their own mobile functionality as well. Sequence is a platform that it's a very good mixture of capabilities for both of those different types of process designer. I mean, the use of mobile parts, our equivalent of SharePoint web parts, we give the ability for the process designers to be able to create self-contained mobile portals that do a specific requirement. I'm going to show you the standard Sequence mobile app that does everything that Sequence on the desktop can do. But of course, what I'll be showing you can be configured, can be cut down and tailored for a specific requirement that the customer may have to roll out to their employees. And one of the real key aspects of mobile BPM is the ability to be able to work wherever you are. The whole idea is you don't need to be in the office, but just because you're not in the office doesn't necessarily mean you'll be connected. Probably in the future aircraft will be connected, but currently they're not. If you're on the underground, certainly the UK underground, you're currently not connected, although I understand that they will be putting Wi-Fi on the UK underground in the near future. There'll be no getting away from your emails. Or even connectivity hostile environments. Sounds a bit nasty, but shipbuilders, people working inside ships with metal frames or in large buildings, skyscrapers that have large metal structures are very connectivity hostile. And then even remote locations. You could be out in, if you're right in the middle of the States, you just may not have connectivity. You could even be in the middle of the sea. You haven't got a satellite phone with you. You won't be connected. But you still want to be able to action your tasks. You still want to be able to kick processes off and so on.
Is that chap in the photograph actioning a task there on the moon, James?
Yes, yes. And Neil Armstrong, he used Sequence BPM when he was on the moon to action a few tasks while he was there.
Fascinating.
You'll be surprised where Sequence BPM has been used.
Well, Sequence continues to surprise us all for the good.
Yeah, yeah. We all like to stretch the boundaries every now and then.
Very good.
Okay. Now, mobile BPM, it's about people being able to action their tasks out and about. The tasks, it's about information. We've mentioned information a lot. It's about providing information to the user and about the user providing information back to the enterprise as well. So another key feature of mobile BPM is the ability to be able to access information in enterprise systems. And that's both to retrieve the information and present it to the user, but also any then information coming back from the user, being able to update those systems. And I've picked out just a few of the main ones that we see Sequence being connected to. CRM, for the sales force out there on the streets, speaking to customers, possibly wanting to put new sales opportunities or service requests, which is the subject of the demo that I'll be doing in a moment, so that the operation back at base can start actioning tasks as quick as possible. Even going down to in-house applications that you may have built yourself, very easy to connect Sequence and Sequence Mobile BPM to these applications to expose that information to the users, both when they're in the office and when they're out and about.
James, just a question. Are we seeing that CRM and ERP systems are providing a mobile interface as well?
Okay, yeah, this is very important. Now, that's a good question. And it also extends to when you are in the office as well. In CRM, you can access it over the web. Let's take Microsoft CRM. You can access it via the browser. ERP, you can quite often access via the browser or from a client, so on. And within those environments, they are very functionally rich. Where BPM really comes into it is when you want to connect these systems together or combine the information together. And that now extends to, I was reading just a moment before the webinar, how Microsoft has signed up with a partner to offer a mobile capability on top of Microsoft CRM. But what that will do is it will give you access to CRM. It won't give you access to the enterprise. So if you then want to combine CRM information with, say, supply chain management systems or something from finance, that's where you then need mobile BPM to bring those together. It's about end-to-end business processes, not in-application business processes. So that doesn't mean that you either have to have one or the other. They will both work together. Perhaps the core users of either CRM or ERP may want to use the mobile app that's provided with the applications. But the business users that are doing end-to-end business processes, interacting with information from all of those systems, that's when you need your mobile BPM to give you that seamless, very simple to use and powerful user experience.
Good.
Okay, so that's sort of the last of the key features that I've picked out. I just wanted to mention this piece because people are often asking us, so if I want mobile BPM, do I need my BPM to be in the cloud? And the simple answer is no, you don't have to. Many of our customers want to keep their BPM, their Sequence on-premise. They want to keep their enterprise applications on-premise, securely tucked away behind the firewall. But with a combination of Sequence to Go Mobile and Sequence to Go Connect cloud services, we are able to offer, and this is built on Microsoft Azure, we are able to offer the ability to be able to have the mobile app hosted in the cloud, communicating securely back to on-premise with the Sequence that is on-premise and consequently with the enterprise applications. And this is extremely easy to configure and set up using Microsoft Azure Service Bus. You don't need to open up ports on firewalls and all other fancy infrastructure pieces. So what this means is that mobile BPM is now available to organizations however they want to host their BPM. So finally, just to wrap up before we launch into the demo, so Sequence Mobile BPM. As Ellie mentioned in the history of BPM, the evolution of BPM, we have offered elements of mobile BPM for a number of years now, but it's really all coming together now in a range of offerings that we have to provide a truly enterprise mobile BPM solution, combining these elements that we see on here to really deliver what is a very configurable, a very quick to deploy mobile BPM solution. Okay, so that's the end of my features. Do we have any questions? Let me just have a look. Do we have any questions? We need to answer.
I think everyone's looking forward to the demo. Oh, but do we have something here?
Yep. Okay, let's perhaps, Ellie, if you can take a quick look at the questions, and if there's any questions that we can answer now, if you could pick those out and ask those at the end. But let's crack on and have a look at the demo.
Sounds good.
Okay. So let's have a look. I'm not just going to show you the mobile app standalone, because that doesn't put it in context. What I'm going to show you is a few steps in the process. I'm just conscious of time. I appreciate we are getting quite tight on time. If we want some time for questions at the end, I need to be fairly swift. So here is an example of a short little process that we've put together. It's a service request process whereby anyone can submit a request into, this is actually for a business process outsourcing organization. Someone can be with the customer, the call center can be on the phone, a request comes in, and we need to submit it and get that action requested by the service centers. So here we can see within Sequence we have a step, submit request. Once that request is submitted, it will come in. We will use some business logic to determine, well, do we need to get an approval? We then need to allocate it to an appropriate service center, and we then need to actually action that request. I'm sure you're familiar with Sequence and its SharePoint portal. I won't talk too much about this. If you'd like to know more about Sequence's BPM capabilities, then please feel free to contact us and we can talk to you about those specifically. But what I'm going to do is look at this particular process. It's the BPO service request process, and as I mentioned, I may be sitting on a call center and I may want to fill in the form on my laptop, and I'm going to do that. Let's say a demo customer has phoned in and they would like a new server. Now, we haven't made this too fancy. This isn't about how complicated we can make Sequence forms. They're a very powerful form capability. What's really key here is I can launch this desk-bound, or, and here's your first view of the Sequence to Go mobile portal. I'm going to log on. So let me tell you a bit about this mobile portal. This is an HTML5 mobile portal. What we're currently looking at is web delivered, so it's a portal. It's not a mobile app, so you don't have to install it on a mobile device to use it. It has all the capabilities that Sequence BPM portal in SharePoint has, including the ability to be able to see all my messages. We'll have a little look at dashboards later. But also the ability to be able to see well, what processes can I kick off, and actually kick off those processes. So here, I've actually kicked off exactly the same process as I did from within SharePoint. As you can see, I have a different form. In this case, it's got the same field, but it's a different look and feel to the one that I kicked off when I was in SharePoint. Now, of course, if it was a call center, I may want to add lots more details, such as who was the contact details, perhaps a bit of background information, and so on. But then if I have a sales or account executive out with a customer, they don't want to be sitting there typing in lots of bits of information. They want to fill in that form as quickly as possible and submit it so that the service center's backup base can action that as quick as possible. So let's have a quick look at how we actually do this. For those of you that are familiar with the sequence form editor, we've refreshed it, give it a new look and feel, but the main capability that we have added is the ability to be able to have multiple views. We have the default view, the view that people get when they come into it desk-bound, and then we have the mobile view that people will get when they're coming in via the mobile. And so I can create separate user experiences, but it's all sitting on top of the same task or the same form. Okay, so we will now have seen that once I've submitted it, it's gone to Rachel. Let's have a look at Rachel within the portal. I will log off as myself. And I'm now going to log in as Rachel on my phone. Rachel can see she's got lots of tasks. She needs to action some of these quickly. Here at the top is the task that we have just allocated to her. Clicking on that, she can see the information telling her what has happened and what she needs to do about it. She needs to action this task. And we can see we've put in here demo customer, that's the name of the customer. A new server, that's the request that was put in. So we've got information from the process in the message on the mobile. And she clicks on the action this task link, which will then bring up a mobile-friendly form, again, telling her details, and she can decide, yes, I'm going to approve that, and click submit. And just to clarify, I'm obviously showing you this on a browser on my laptop. I'm actually browsing to exactly the same web app as I would be if I was showing this on my iPhone, on my BlackBerry, on my Android, so on. It's a web app that works on all devices, even on laptops if you wish to do it that way. So clicking submit, oops, hasn't allowed me to action that. Okay.
That's our security there.
Yes. I just need to, just need to understand why that didn't let me action it. Just bear with me a second.
Does Rachel have permissions to that task?
She had it when I ran it earlier, so she should have. Yeah. Okay, just a slight teething problem there. Apologies for that. Okay, just bear with me a second. I wonder if I might have don't you love live demos? Okay, I won't dwell too much on that. But what I shall do, let's go and have a look in SharePoint, and we will see that if I log on as Rachel. The messages that she has in here are exactly the same as the messages that she will have on her mobile portal. So she can action them wherever she wants to. Okay, let's have a, we won't dwell too much on those. Let's have a look at some of the other features of the mobile application. So I mentioned I can kick off any process that I have permission to launch. And of course, I can only kick off the ones that I have permissions. So if an organization has 100 processes automated in sequence, but I only have permission to launch 5, I will only see 5 here. We can group them by category as well, just to make the browsing to the appropriate process that much easier for the user. I can see all of my lists of messages, including the message and being able to action the task directly from the mobile. On here I can see the due date as well, so I know exactly when I'm expected to action my task. I can also see the processes that I've kicked off as well, so if I want to monitor how these processes are progressing, I can see those within here too. We have monitoring as well, where we can divide this up into KPIs. Have a look at some example finance KPIs. So here we have configured 4 KPIs that are pertinent to me, and at a glance in the list I can see those ones to green, don't need to worry about those. Amber ones may be a little concerned, but the red ones are the ones that I can deal with first. So I can come in here, I can see the KPI in a sequence gauge. The red and the green banding shows me at a glance this has just tipped into the red, I need to do something about it. I may want to then drill down into more information to find, well, let's look at all of the CapEx processes that meant I have gone overspent and try and understand where that's happened. Or I may want to notify someone else about this particular incident so that they can take corrective action. And I can, of course, review the ones that are less important, the amber ones, the green ones, if I wish. In addition to that, we can also have some management information. If I'm head of HR, I may be interested to know, well, how much work have my HR administrators got? I may be interested in how long they've taken to action the work. All information that's available to me through SharePoint as well. If I'm out and about, not in the office, I may be interested in information. I can review how the business is performing, how my teams are performing, how my KPIs are performing, very simply and easily. We've designed it to be as simple as possible, but to deliver real value to the users. But lastly, just to touch on the security aspect, this is an extremely secure application. If I log out, here I've got Remember Me on this mobile. If I'm particularly conscious about that, I can set it up so that I have to log on whenever I come in here. Let me re-enter my password. But if I'm within this application and I put my phone down, it will time out after a specified period. So if anyone picks it up and then tries to action something, the session will be timed out and the user will be taken back to the login screen and they'll have to log on. Because it's communicating via There's web services communicating with Sequence via Sequence to Go Connect. They are all working over HTTPS, all secure communications. I'm actually actioning this just over standard HTTP because it's just a demo. But when we deploy this to customers, Sequence to Go Mobile works over HTTPS just to add that extra level of industry standard security. And we're continually enhancing, testing, and building on the security of the application, just so that first key feature that I mentioned in the earlier slides is a big tick in the box there. Doesn't matter how good the mobile BPM solution is, if it's not secure, it's not effective, it can't be used.
James, if I can jump in here and ask, we just have a few minutes left till the end of the webinar. What would be the major difference between a mobile BPM portal versus a mobile BPM app?
Okay, and this is, again, you're coming up with some very good questions. This is a very, very important question. And with Sequence, we are not just going down one route. We will, in the very near future, be offering native apps as well. Now, the benefit of what I'm showing you here, this is a web portal. So I am browsing on my mobile to a website. The advantage of that is I don't need to install it on my PC, on my smartphone. It's very easy to get to. If I'm not using my work phone one day, I've bought in my iPad or my personal smartphone, I can use that as well. If the application is updated, it's updated on the server. You don't then have to, if you've got thousands of employees with it, you don't have to rely on those thousands of employees doing the updates. Although, to be honest, the updates these days of mobile apps is very quick and easy to do. That's some of the benefits of the web app. As far as the mobile app goes, today lots of work has been done by the industry to allow mobile app developers to be able to create a common code base, mainly using HTML5 to create those apps that can then be installed as native apps on each device through the appropriate app store. The key advantage of having an actual native mobile app is you then get access to the onboard features such as the camera, the voice communication capabilities, other capabilities, and geolocation, although strictly speaking geolocation is available via a web app as well. So if you've got field engineers that are collecting information by taking photographs of items, that's when the mobile app would come in useful. If you've got a specific requirement where you need to use those features, that's for the mobile app. But if it's just using the Sequence to Go Mobile as an alternative to the desk-bound BPM, then the mobile app works particularly well. So again, it's all about choices for our customers.
Very good.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Do we have any other questions from our audience?
I took a look, and I think we've nearly run out of time. So some of them really you've answered many of them already. The people asking about mobile reporting and dashboards, and the question about app versus portal. I think you really dealt with the questions. Obviously this is a very large field, and so much we've covered a lot, but there's so much we haven't covered, and perhaps we'll do another one to cover more as things develop.
Yes, and what we'll perhaps show next time is how we can connect to those enterprise systems to expose that information to the mobile user. So yes, as you say, there's lots more that we can talk about in terms of mobile BPM, but there's only so much that we can fit in within the space of an hour.
Absolutely. If people are interested, I suppose people listening to this webinar, whether you're one of our customers or not, you're welcome to contact us at info@pnmsoft.com, regarding the mobile BPM portal and our mobile features. And we'll also be happy to hear from you with any questions you have. les@pnmsoft.com, and James, I'm sure people can email you as well. James, thanks very much for being our presenter, our special guest today in today's webinar, The Future of Mobile BPM. And thank you all for listening. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, thank you all.